People say betrayal is loud. They're wrong. It's quiet. It happens between laughter with a wine glass in hand. My name is Rowena Cole, and I never thought the deepest wounds would come from the people sitting across my own dinner table. I spent 8 years serving my country believing that coming home would finally mean peace. Instead, I was met with silence eye rolls and a sister who laughed in front of everyone and said no one would care if I disappeared. This isn't a story about revenge. It's about what happens when the person everyone overlooks finally decides to walk away. And if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, this story might just be yours too. The heat of a Texas afternoon pressed against my skin as I laid out folding tables on the patchy grass behind my parents' house. Cicadas buzzed in the trees like static warning of a storm no one else could feel. I had only been home from the army for 3 weeks, still waking up at 5 a.m. without needing an alarm. I thought coming back would feel like soft ground after years of marching. Instead, it felt like walking into a play where everyone already knew their lines, except me. Mom moved around the yard arranging paper plates and plastic forks like she was defusing a bomb. Dad sat by the grill in an old lawn chair, one knee shaking from pain he'd never admit out loud. He gave me the smallest nod, the kind that said he noticed I existed even if no one else did. On my wrist, his old watch ticked steadily, worn leather, scratched face still keeping time better than we ever did as a family. I set out condiments, swept leaves, tied checkered tablecloths so the wind wouldn't take them. No one asked me how I was. No one said welcome home. Brandon stumbled outside with a beer already open and grinned like he'd done something difficult. "Hey, you're back," he said, as if I'd run to the store, not served 8 years moving supplies through deserts and silence. Then Vanessa arrived. She didn't enter a space. She claimed it. Bright dress, sunglasses, the kind of confidence born from never hearing the word no. She hugged Mom like she was the one who'd come back from war, not me. Aunt swarmed her with compliments while I carried another stack of chairs from the garage. Someone asked if she'd gotten another promotion. She laughed, eyes shining. Practically. I was close enough to hear, not close enough to be invited into the conversation. Dinner smelled like charcoal and overcooked burgers. Everyone filled their plates before I even sat down. My chair was at the far end near the trash can. Conversation floated past me, work gossip, football predictions, wedding plans of a cousin whose name I couldn't recall. My name only surfaced when someone needed more napkins. Just as the sun dipped behind the trees, Vanessa stood glass in hand, smile perfectly rehearsed. "You know," she said loud enough for every fork to pause mid-air, "if Rowena vanished tomorrow, nobody would even notice." For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then laughter, sharp, echoing casual. Brandon nearly spit out his beer. Dad smiled like he didn't understand the joke. Mom poured herself more wine instead of speaking. My ears rang, but not from gunfire. This was quiet or worse. I didn't cry. I lifted my plastic cup, felt the condensation on my fingers, and whispered just loud enough for her to hear, "Challenge accepted." The laughter died for 2 brief seconds. Then, like cowards, they moved on. When the last plate was thrown away and the lights were unplugged, I slipped upstairs to my old room. The walls hadn't changed. I had. I opened my worn duffel bag, already half-packed. The laptop screen glowed in the dark, a blank page waiting. My pulse slowed. The watch on my wrist ticked like it agreed. That night, I stare at my packed duffel bag and an empty laptop screen. One tab is open: one-way rentals to Fayetteville, North Carolina. Leaving isn't loud, it's silent. You don't slam doors, you close them quietly so no one hears you go. The morning after the barbecue, the house felt heavier, like it knew I was done pretending. I didn't pack right away. I moved slowly, deliberately, as if touching every object I'd once called mine was a way of saying goodbye without words. My room still smelled faintly of cedar from the footlocker I'd brought home from base, but the walls, the furniture, the neatly folded quilt at the end of the bed, They all belonged to a version of me who waited to be chosen. I wasn't her anymore. I started small. Location sharing off. Bank accounts redirected. Old photos stored on a private backup drive. I deleted group chats quietly, the kind filled with birthday reminders and shallow comments about weather and recipes. My social media accounts went dark, not with a final post, not with a dramatic goodbye, just silence. That kind of disappearance is cleaner, harder to trace, easier to deny. Daniel noticed first. He always did. A short message appeared on my phone. "You okay? Or gone?" I answered with a single line. "Working on it." That was enough. 2 days later, I sat beside him in his cluttered garage while he typed lines of code, recovering archived emails I thought were long buried. Messages from Vanessa asking me to complete her corporate reports, followed by congratulatory emails from her boss praising her brilliance. Daniel exported everything onto a small USB drive and handed it to me like a weapon. "Insurance," he said. By mid-July, I signed a short lease on a one-bedroom apartment in Fayetteville, North Carolina. The building was old, smelling faintly of laundry detergent and rain-soaked concrete. The windows overlooked a cracked parking lot and a line of maples that hadn't decided whether to live or die in the summer heat. It wasn't beautiful, but it was mine. My name alone on the paperwork. My key. My choice. Back home, no one noticed me withdrawing. I made dinner, did dishes, helped Dad adjust his knee brace, all while quietly extracting myself from their lives. One evening, Brandon knocked on my door, leaning against the frame like gravity had chosen him specifically. "Hey, can you spot me 300? Just until payday." I didn't explain budgets or boundaries, I just said, "No." His face twisted, confused more than angry. "Seriously, you're unbelievable." He walked away before I could reply. I was glad. The night I left, the sky was still dark, just a smear of deep blue over the rooftops. I carried one duffel bag, the same one that followed me through deployments, and the USB drive tucked inside my jacket. I paused outside my parents' bedroom. I could hear Dad's uneven breathing, the soft hum of Mom's bedside fan. I didn't leave a note. I had given them enough of my words. The highway out of Cedar Creek was empty, headlights catching dust and memory. I didn't cry. I didn't look back. Freedom doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it feels like a long exhale after years of holding your breath. By afternoon, I was sitting on the floor of my new apartment, takeaway noodles in a paper box, no furniture except the duffel bag and a lamp I bought at a gas station. The silence wasn't lonely. It was honest. I rested my head against the wall and let the quiet fill the spaces where expectation used to live. Vanessa wanted me gone. She just never thought I'd go willingly. Days blurred, then weeks. I built a routine morning coffee on the dusty balcony, late-night job applications calls with Daniel that didn't require small talk. I checked my phone more often than I wanted to admit, waiting for a message that never came. No texts, no missed calls, not even a casual, "Are you alive?" 3 months pass. No one calls, no one notices. Then an email arrives. Subject line: Dad. Test results and hospital bills. You don't go to war without reconnaissance. And this time, the battlefield is my own blood. The email from the hospital sat in my inbox for a full hour before I opened it. Dad's name, my insurance number, treatments I never authorized. It didn't surprise me. What hurt wasn't what they did, but how naturally they assumed I'd never know. I stared at the bill until the screen blurred, then forwarded it to myself twice, as if proof needed backup to be real. The next morning, I drove to the county hospital. The hallway lights too bright. The waiting room coffee burned down to tar. The billing clerk didn't even look up when I approached. "We've already spoken to your sister," she said. "She said you approved everything." I kept my voice steady. "My signature isn't hers." She hesitated, finally meeting my eyes. After a pause, she slid a form toward me. Vanessa had filled it out in my name wrong, middle initial wrong address. Close, but not close enough. That made it worse. She hadn't stolen my identity, she'd rewritten it. I left with copies, not originals. That mattered. Daniel's garage smelled like motor oil and solder when I handed him the forms. He didn't ask for details. He just rolled his chair to the desk and powered on his computer. While code scrolled across his screen, I told him about the insurance, about Dad's quiet apologies, about watching Mom step over my existence like it was a stain on her carpet. Daniel only looked at me once, and in that glance I saw something I hadn't expected: anger on my behalf, clean and sharp. "Check your email," he said an hour later. There they were, archived messages from Vanessa ordering me to revise her report, signed off with "Fix this. Don't mess it up." 2 days later, the company newsletter praised her initiative. By late October, I drove back to Cedar Creek. I didn't tell them I was coming. The house was empty, just as I hoped. Leaves scraped across the porch like restless thoughts. Inside, nothing had changed. Same framed family photo on the mantel, same crack in the tile by the stove, same silence that always greeted me first. I went to Dad's room. His drawer stuck before it opened, like it knew it held something private. Inside, unpaid invoices, hospital letters, and a folded note with my name. "I should have defended you more. I'm sorry." The handwriting was shaky, but the truth was steady. I scanned everything. I left every page exactly how I found it. I wanted the house untouched, so when the time came, they couldn't deny any of it. Back in Fayetteville, Daniel leaned against his car, watching me sort files into folders on the USB drive: medical lies, financial exploitation, stolen credit. "Are you sure you're not trying to burn them down?" he asked. I clicked the drive shut, slipped it into my pocket. "No," I said. "I'm just handing them the matches they gave me." Nights grew colder. I slept lightly, like I was still overseas, listening for footsteps that never came. Anger had stopped burning. Now it sat inside me like ice. One evening, my phone buzzed on the counter. Mom texts, "Your father's birthday dinner is November 12th. Please come. He asked for you." Below it, Vanessa sends a message. "Don't make this about you. Just behave. They thought I came home to make peace. I came to show them their reflection." The porch light glowed a tired yellow as I stood at the doorway on November 12th, the night air cold enough to make my breath visible. Inside, laughter floated from the dining room, thin and strained, like someone playing happiness on a broken piano. I stepped in, hung my coat on the same hook it had always known, and walked toward the table where every chair was already full except the one at the end. Mine. The dining room was dressed for celebration: crystal glasses, flowers, in a vase someone probably bought last minute, a cake, waiting in the center like an unspoken apology. But beneath it, tension hummed like a power line ready to snap. Mom's hands trembled as she set down the last plate. Dad sat straighter than his body wanted to let him, eyes following me but saying nothing. Vanessa's smile stretched a touch too wide. Brandon was already red-cheeked, swirling his drink as if courage could be poured from a bottle. No one asked how I'd been. No one asked why I came. They just assumed I'd fallen back into my old place, the quiet space between their conversations. Dinner began with dull clinks of silverware. No one chewed loudly. No one spoke first. Finally, Vanessa stood, glass in hand, voice syrup sweet and venom laced. "To family, the ones who stay." I didn't stand. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a small black recorder, and set it on the table. A soft click echoed louder than her toast. Then the sound played, faint backyard noise, clinking glasses, and her voice bright and careless. "Honestly, if Rowena vanished tomorrow, nobody would even notice." Laughter followed Brandon, Dad, cousins. The room froze. No one breathed. Vanessa's smile faltered. Brandon's fork stopped midair. Mom's eyes filled, but she didn't speak. Dad's hands tightened around his glass. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I reached into my bag and laid the hospital invoices on the table. My name on insurance documents I never signed. then printed emails, each one addressed to me. Fix this. Send it back. Don't mess it up. Below them, company newsletters praising Vanessa for her outstanding performance. Finally, I set down Dad's note, the one I found in his drawer. I should have defended you more. I'm sorry. His handwriting shaky but unmistakable. You taught me disappearing makes no noise, I said quietly. Now you'll learn truth doesn't either. The room didn't move, but something shifted. Dad looked at me, not around me, not through me, at me. His throat tightened before he spoke. She's right. That's when the glass slipped from Mom's hand and shattered against the hardwood wine, spreading like a small, dark confession. She didn't pick it up. Vanessa pushed back her chair so hard it screeched across the floor. Color burned high on her cheeks, not guilt, but rage. You think this makes you better than us? I felt my lips curve, not in triumph, just recognition of the moment we couldn't come back from. No, it just makes you exposed. In the end, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam a door. I simply stopped being who they expected, and that was loud enough. The dining room was still heavy with what hadn't been said as I stood from my chair. No one moved. Vanessa's breathing came fast and sharp. Brandon stared at the tablecloth like the answers might be stitched into it, and Mom gripped the back of a chair as if it could steady the truth. I kept my voice level. I'm not asking for apologies. I just won't carry you anymore. For the first time in years, no one argued. No one redirected. Silence became a confession. Dad tried to stand but couldn't, so I walked to him. His hand found mine thin and shaking. Thank you for not giving up on yourself. He didn't say for not giving up on him. He didn't need to. I squeezed his fingers once and let go. That was the last moment I belonged in that house. In the days that followed, consequences arrived quietly like frost on windows. Vanessa tried to craft a different version of the truth online, one where I'd overreacted. It didn't work. Someone at her company had received the recording. Daniel sent it to HR anonymously. Her co-workers stopped clapping when she entered rooms. Her promotion froze. Her smile did too. Brandon lost his job a week later. Word spreads fast in small towns when you borrow money and forget to return it. His friends stopped answering his calls. Mom texted me one night, "I'm sorry I looked away when you needed me." I didn't send a reply, but I didn't delete it either. I moved into a small house in Fayetteville, white siding and a chipped red mailbox out front. The deed had my name, only mine. No hyphen, no cosigner. On the first morning there, I brewed coffee in a dented tin pot and held the mug between both hands. The steam curled upward, warm and quiet, nothing like the sound of glass shattering on hardwood. I placed Dad's watch in a drawer, not to forget, but to stop wearing the weight of what I'd already survived. Nights were still, but not empty. I wrote pages and pages until words became something more than pain. I sent one essay to a small online journal under a false name, Why the Strongest One Leaves First. It was shared more than I expected. Veterans wrote to me. Women I'd never met said they felt seen. For once, my story belonged to me. When Dad had a follow-up appointment at the VA hospital, I drove him. He walked slower now, but his grip on my arm was steady. In the waiting room, he whispered, "You didn't break the family, Rowena. You stopped it from breaking you." I looked at him and saw a man trying, even if it was too late, to fix everything he let happen. 2 weeks later, I was loading groceries into my car when Vanessa stepped into the driveway. Her eyes were rimmed with sleeplessness, her voice cracked but sharp. "Are you happy now? You ruined us." I closed the trunk gently. "I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped fixing what you kept breaking." She had no reply. Her mouth opened, then closed. For once, she had no audience, no script. The wind was cold that morning, but the sun was soft. I sat on the porch of my new home, wool blanket around my shoulders, a mug warming my palms. Birds picked at the frosted grass. No applause. No forgiveness. Just peace. Quiet earned and entirely mine. They said I'd disappear and nobody would care. They were half right. I disappeared. And I finally cared. If my story struck a chord with you, don't let it fade in silence. Leave a comment, tell me what you would have done, or simply say, you're here. Your words matter more than you think. I spent years believing my pain was invisible, but I know now being seen is its own kind of healing. If you've ever stayed quiet to keep the peace, remember this silence can protect you, but it can also bury you. Speak or walk away, but never stay where you're breaking. If you believe I deserved better, stand with me. I'm listening.